I didn't expect to have so many Sennheiser videos up in such a short time, but as a reviewer, I had to jump on opportunities awarded to me, and it just so happens that recently Sennheiser has been the most visible thing that I've had time to review. So this is going to be a review of the Sennheiser Urbanite XL, and this is just to get it straight out and just completely tell you guys what's going on. This review is sponsored, in a sense, by the store Audio Sanctuary based in New Malden, London. Now, they haven't paid me for this or anything, but what they did do is kindly let me borrow this for a week to evaluate it and review it because I showed them my review videos and they thought it was nice enough to, they thought they were good enough to let me borrow some gear from now and then. So, besides that, it's all my opinion. It's not the opinion of the store itself. They just sell the product, of course. And I really recommend, if you are a hi-fi audio enthusiast in both speakers or headphones, do check out their store. Because stores like that, I wish I had that back in my home country. You have so much gear set up, so much high-end gear. Stuff from Odyssey headphones, the high-end Sennheisers. You've got some stacks. I tried out some stacks for the first time. Very nice. All kinds of cool stuff, and then you have the speaker stuff too, which I don't know so much about, but they have what are they called? Kef blade setup, which are very really nice sounding. So do check it out. I'll put a link in the description to their website, so you can check out the address, and do check it out. The staff are very nice, very friendly. They're very knowledgeable. They'll give you some good advice. They don't try to push you in a certain direction, in my opinion. They'll try to listen to what you like and they'll advise accordingly, which is, I think, great. So, back to my review. The Sennheiser Urbanite XL. XL, by the way, stands for these have larger cups, so these are over-the-ear cups. The other Urbanite is an on-air version, which is directly competing with Beats, like the Beats Solo 2 that I had, which I reviewed, I believe, last week. So straight up, I can tell you something what's going on here with this marketing, with this look, with this sound signature, is I think that after the success of Beats, Sennheiser took a good long, hard look at itself and said, we are a hi-fi brand, but we are also a consumer brand, so let's come out with something which is a consumer product. And this is the result of that. Now, I like how this looks. I really do like how this looks. Because this is the denim version, by the way, denim XL, and the top of it, that is it. That is denim. That's real cloth. It's not some kind of plastic that's made to look like cloth. Nope, the real texture, the real cloth is right here, and I think that looks really cool and stylish. And then you have on the air pads, you have a kind of suede. And it's quite comfortable, actually, in my opinion. Since I got the over-the-air ones, they don't give me as much discomfort as an on-air headphone would give me. So I'm quite grateful for that. The adjustments are a little funny, actually, because if you put them all the way up, like if you have like a tiny baby head, you'll have these parts sticking down, which is an interesting design choice, I guess. If you put them all the way out. Yeah. The clamp is not too hard. It stretches nicely. It's also foldable. Once again, I talked about it being a consumer product. Well, it's foldable, so there's one great indication of that. Foldable to go into your backpack or wherever you want to go. So, yeah. Let me just quickly show you the cable it comes with. The detachable cable, by the way, which I also very much appreciate, because you never know what's going to happen with a cable. And this cable is interesting because it's completely flat. And just like the HD598, it's just put in on one side, you plug it in, then you turn it to the right, and it locks into place. So, and just for clarification, has a volume raiser lower and a play pause button and a microphone in the back. And it's just a standard consumer length cable for portable use. Nothing crazy going on here in regards to that. So, back to the headphones themselves. Looks wise, I like them. I think they're comfort wise. They're okay. I know I like the AirPads comfort wise, but overall it's okay. There's not much padding on the headband at all. This is really, really not that much padding. It's like a soft silicone kind of thing. I'm not sure what this is exactly, but it's just slightly, it just bends slightly up. And the AirPads themselves, okay, it's almost winter here, so it's quite cold. So take when I say these don't get hot in your ears too fast with a grain of salt, because I really do not know how these will perform in the summer. That's really up to you. You have to go check it out yourself and tell me what you think. Maybe I could foresee this being a problem, but I'm not entirely sure. So yeah, looks wise it's nice. These come in different colors. Blue denim, pretty cool. First headphone I've ever seen utilizing denim or cloth in its design. So basically these are supposed to be the street headphones. The Urbanite. Like even the name gives off images of some dude wearing these and skateboarding down the street in like in central London or central New York or something like that. That's the target demographic they're going for. They're not going for the audiophiles. They're not going for the people who would buy an HD600 or an HD800. They're going for people who just want something nice to wear on the street, something that sounds decent. Now, the sound of these is where I have to draw the parallels between this and Beats, because that's my best reference point in my opinion, because they're both similarly priced and they both try to do very similar things, because like I said, Sennheiser tried to copy Beats by Dre in regards of like looks and even the sound signature, because this sound is very bass driven. Very bass driven. The sub bass on this extends quite low. It's not okay, it's bass driven, but it's not as bumped up as it is on the Beats. It's still bumped up quite a bit, but it's not obnoxiously slow that like the Beats headphones that I talked about, where it would just drown out not just the lower mids but all of them. It will make them all sound very strange and very unclear in my opinion. But these also do that kind of. The sub bass extends quite low. There's quite a lot of mid bass that clashes, in my opinion, with the lower mids, and which can lead to there is quite a bit of bleed. There is quite a bit of bleed. Now, in some genres of music, slickly produced music, let's say The Weeknd's new album, this shouldn't be too much of a problem. But if you're expecting to listen to like Led Zeppelin or classic rock or even rock music on this, you're going to have a bit of a problem, because you're going to have the bass guitar and the guitars bleed into each other and become this really cloggy mess. Now you're probably wondering, wow, that doesn't sound really good at all. Well, it goes on. It's not as bad as Beats in my opinion, and I'll tell you why. The mid-range is a little recessed in the top area. The lower area, of course, you feel the body because of the bass bleed and all that. The top area it's decent. It's not really the best, I would say. These are more V-shaped than I thought. The treble though is where it distinguishes itself from Beats quite a bit, because Beats really has a rolled off treble, and this does too, but this rolls it off in a far less amount than Beats do. Where Beats takes like a hacksaw and cuts off a huge chunk of treble, what this does, it's a little more precise in its implementation. It's still a bit too rolled off for my taste, but what it does is it cuts off a little bit down in a certain frequency, then it goes back up again, then it cuts down again. Something like that. I have to look at a frequency response chart. I should have looked at it before the video, but I'm just saying that's how it sounds. Some things will sound like very thuddish. If something falls into the recessed region, you will feel like there's not much snap going on there. And snap is something I really like listening to in headphones. I love my Airflows, the really dynamic sounding, snapping sound. These don't have that so much. In some areas though, if some vocal or some cymbal or something hits the region where it goes back up, the treble, you will feel it. But it'll be very strange, because you'll feel that, but you won't feel stuff that also should be represented in that area, but only slightly below it in the frequency response. So it gives me a very uneven feeling when I'm listening to these headphones uh, because of that reason. It doesn't get sibilant. So once again, consumer focused sound signature, bass driven, bit of mids, and rolled off treble. But it compared to the beats, it does it better. But still, it's not something that, okay, my biases are that I would not personally like this so much. I could recommend it to some people. I could, based on their preferences, because I would say to them, you want beats, but you know beats have problems. This can give you a cleaner representation of music than beats. That is for sure. And it isolates very well. It isolates very well because I'll give you the best example I can. Last night they began construction on my road. And, bulldozers going on outside and stuff. I had these on and I barely heard them. Barely heard them. I heard the vibrations of the house, but I didn't hear the sound so much. And for something that's passive noise canceling, that's pretty damn good, in my opinion. So, yeah, if someone wants something that isolates very well and has decent sound, cleaner than beats, that's the key point. Cleaner sound than beats, then I would recommend this to them. But for someone like me, I have little to no use for these headphones personally. That's just my opinion. I have different tastes, and but that doesn't stop me from recommending it to someone who, like I said, mentioned like the isolation factor and all that. But if isolation isn't such a big deal for you, and you also desire a snappier sound, then I have the best reference point that I can in this price range even, and in fact the same manufacturer. This was my last review. This is the Sennheiser 598 HD598 Closed Edition. Now this came out I bought it on Black Friday like a few days ago, last week, something like that. So pretty good. Now the difference between these two headphones are that first of all they're similarly priced. So they're directly competing with each other, but they're in different places. This is more for the streetwear thing, that whole thing I talked about, Urbanite and everything. This is more for an enthusiast. It's still pretty much an entry-fi headphone, but it's still an enthusiast level headphone. It's tuned in a certain way where it's also doing that whole consumer tuning thing, but it's not as rolled off in some areas, and it's not as overt as this Urbanite, and especially the beats. So what you'll have here in the HD598 Closed Edition is you have a. I'm not going to talk about the pads or anything like that. Those are covered in my other review. I just want to talk about the sound signature. Sound signature wise, the bass extends lower on the Urbanite. The Urbanite is also a much more closed design, and even though it's over the ear because it's the XL, it just barely goes over my ears. Whereas this has much larger ear pads, and the bass in this, even though it's more than the open version, it's still not that much compared to the Urbanite. The Urbanite really has that bass boost going on. This has less so, but it's a cleaner sound overall. A much cleaner sound overall, especially in the mids. The mids in these are also recessed, just like that, but the mids in these are very clean. Very, very clean. They're not so recessed that you get a V-shaped sound, but they're very clean in the sense that if you're listening to, let's say, a rock song, like the ones that would sound very problematic and bogged down in these headphones, you would have no problem on these headphones. The instrument separation is far better on the HD598 Closed Edition than it is on the Urbanite. In fact, it is far, far better. And not to mention just that, the Soundstage alone. The Soundstage on the Urbanite is the narrowest I've heard, well, besides the beats too, those are also very narrow, the narrowest I've heard since the Fostex THX100. So, very narrow Soundstage. Even though these are closed, these have quite a bit more Soundstage compared to that. These have quite a bit less isolation compared to that too. So keep that in mind. These are not going to, if I had worn these yesterday while they were doing construction outside my house, I would not have had all the sound completely blocked out like it did on this. These also don't clamp as hard as that does. So another reason why there's less isolation. These have a cleaner mid-range. They don't have a problematic sense of the bass bleeding into the mid so much as this does. And the treble is the main thing that distinguishes these two. Like I said, this has an uneven treble thing. This is also slightly rolled off, but it's so minute. So minute, even compared to, I believe, the open version of the same headphone. This has more treble than that even. The treble in this has a good amount of snap to it. It's a very, very energetic sound that you get from these headphones. It pushes sound out at you. It's a bit like my Air in that sense. It just takes sound and throws it at you. It's like, here you go, take it. Now the thing about the sound in this, because of that treble extension, is that you will hear the snare drum hit a lot harder and have a lot more impact than you would on the Urbanite, where it would sound like a thud, and especially on the beats where it would sound like just like that. So you have more treble extension, a more balanced frequency overall, still a consumer sound. Like some people have been complaining about these headphones saying there's not that much bass. Well, I've been looking at what they've been coming from, and they usually come from something like a headset, which is far more bass boosted. So you have to take these things into consideration, where even if it is a bit consumer tuned, the HD598 is not supposed to compete with the really bassy headsets and headphones in this price range. It's still more of a balanced sound overall. That's what Sennheiser is trying to do. In fact, that's why I look at the Urbanite and I wonder, this is an anomaly in Sennheiser. I have to spend more time with the momentums to know what's really going on, but I hear that that's pretty similar to this, but in a much more refined manner. I need to understand what they're going for, because in terms of this consumer tuning, a little bit exists in this, but a lot exists in this, and I think too much for its own good. For my tastes, once again. Whereas this I would recommend. I would recommend this to anybody to get this over the Urbanite, because this is similarly priced, gives you a bit less isolation, gives you more soundstage, more clarity in the mid-range, more treble for the snapping effect, less bass though. Less bass, that's a fact, but it's a more comfortable experience to wear them too, because they have very large air pads, over the air galore. So I know this has turned into a comparison video, but I can't resist because these have two very similar price points. But that would be my recommendation. I recommend this over that. And I'm pretty sure if you ask some Sennheiser representatives, they would tell you off the record they would probably do the same. Because this has a sound that, if you can appreciate the sound of the HD598 closed or open, you are on your way to appreciating what they call hi-fi headphones more. If you appreciate the sound of the Urbanite, then the sound of the Urbanite is going to stay in this region, price region, because if you go further up with this, you will hear things open up in clarity wise. I'm not saying that they are not really bass heavy headphones in the high, like £1,000 region. The TH900 by Fostex exists for that kind of thing, that whole thing. But if you like the sound signature of this, nothing wrong with you, by the way, I'm just saying, if you like the sound signature of this, you will rarely find it up in the higher price points of headphones. Whereas this is a very good entry-level headphone when it comes to, if you're curious about what you can achieve as you go higher up in price. So that's just become a mini lecture at the end. So I'll just put this away and talk about this for one last time. Once again, thank you for Audio Sanctuary for providing me with these headphones. Very nice experience. Even, this experience at the store, I had a good time listening to these. It's not on my taste. I think I've properly highlighted the reasons why I would not buy the one personally. But you can, try them out. You can take my word as advice and base your own needs on what you need if this is what you need. And by the way, just to sum something up, I have heard that the on-air version of these has a different sound signature. So I have not heard those. I can't compare myself. So if you can try them both out, maybe one of them will be to your liking. I'm not sure. So, but they are very nice looking though. I hope more headphones adopt this whole process of using really nice cloth or denim in their design. Pretty sleek. So that's been my review, and thank you for watching.